All right, Morgan, your prediction.
All right. So got to wrap it up with some AI, as if we didn't talk about it enough so far.
2024, the year of AI and health. I missed that. I think I fell asleep. All right, go. What are we gonna do in 2025 in AI?
I think we're on the start of a really interesting trajectory. So this might be a prediction we also roll forward, but really multimodal AI revolutionizing measurement in medicine. And I wish I could put the period after that because while that's all happening technically, I think the truth is payment models are lagging far behind. And if anything, the gap is widening between what we're able to do technically in AI and healthcare and what we're actually paying for and what's actually happening on the ground. And so I think 2025 is the year where we really face this commercial reality check. The technology we now have to integrate imaging, omics, notes, labs, audio, video, it's matured tremendously just over the last year. But as we appreciate the insurance reimbursement infrastructure, which is the main way to get this technology into the hands of physicians and patients, just hasn't kept up at all. And as we are seeing more of these technologies procure and obtain CPT codes, that's all a great headline. But the reality is, it's a fight at the end of the day to get that stuff covered for very narrowly segmented patient populations. It's not for all, as we might hope. I think we're really going to grapple with this over the coming year. And I hope what we realize, though, is that diagnostic AI has significant potential to actually bend the cost curve, really reimagine how we're caring for a lot of the diseases that hopefully Andrew's investments are going to treat. But it's not enough to secure the CPT code. The implementation barriers are going to be very real. And it's going to be the companies and teams that are really focusing on these last mile things. These are not AI problems now, right? These are blocking and tackling healthcare operator problems that we shouldn't underestimate.
Hey, Morgan, can I ask you a question? You said revolutionizing the measurement in medicine. What do you mean by that? And can you give us some examples?
Yeah, so just how we basically classify disease at its most fundamental basis, right? Like if you have a particular drug that's going after, let's pick one of our common diseases. Let's pick like amyloidosis. Oh, that's a rare disease. Let's pick let's pick like a bigger disease, like a cardiomyopathy, for example. And you have only one way to measure that disease. It turns out there could be many different drivers of that one common presentation of that cardiomyopathy. And so the ability to have tools that are either AI based, lab based, imaging based, we've always used like single fighters in medicine to define disease. And I think what's unique about AI is you can kitchen sink all of the things that happen to you in a diagnostic process now and really come up with these rich phenotypes, these rich descriptors of disease in a way that gets at the root cause of what's driving it. And I think we're able to do that in a way we've never been able to do until now in 2025. But this technology will not see the light of day until we can figure out how to actually sustain it financially in a health system environment.
It's interesting because I love this prediction. I want to ask the team here. Like one of the, I've always thought the reticence to adopt AI sometimes might be because the fear AI might replace pathologists or radiologists, right, on the clinical side. But now you're talking about actually diagnosis, right? And you talked about one of the challenges here is there's the whole machination of the healthcare industrial complex that you have to go through, reimbursement, right, regulatory approval. But who's at risk here? Who's going to fight this? I understand why a pathologist or radiologist might be fearful of AI doing first reads because it could replace a lot of their work. But like here, who's fighting this, Morgan or team, like on this prediction? I don't quite know immediately off the top of my head.
I think the issue to me is that you diagnose, but then what do you do? And who's going to pay for that? And I think that's the probably one of the biggest obstacles that Morgan mentioned is how do we pay for this? And how do we learn from, okay, technology works, but how does it get adopted? And in what kind of part of the workflow does it work best? So then you align those incentives for people to use them, the who's going to pay for it and who's going to get the benefit out of it.
So it like doesn't come to fruition because there's whatever the diagnosis leads to, it's not paid for, and the diagnosis is not paid for. Is that the point?
Yeah, or it's already being diagnosed one way today. So you need to change behavior to be diagnosed differently. And if it goes to Morgan's point that you're like subdividing and understanding a little bit like more granularly a particular disease, the so what, right? Of what are we going to do with that insight and how do we going to treat that particular disease? More for better drugs and more personalized medicine.
Yeah, I think Sophia is spot on with the fact that for this to be reimbursed and adopted, there needs to be a so what and an action to take for it to sit within that industrial complex that you said. I think if we're making an analogy to liquid biopsies, a lot of these companies aspire to be a test that I'd want to take every 6 months to see if I have an early stage tumor that I should be treating. And I think the magical idea behind that is really powerful and would have a massive impact on the industry. There's a lot of pushback on, are you going to pay for that for every single American every 6 months? Holy cow, that's expensive. And the ROI back and the potential risk of false positives that are going to lead to a whole downstream impact on additional cost and spend in the healthcare system is really difficult to sift through. And so I suspect what Morgan's talking about is going to start with something that's very hyper specific to a certain disease, a certain high value disease where either catching it early or there's a net new insight that's derived from these multimodal AI models that allow you to treat the disease much more effectively than you would have otherwise, or monitor it and adjust treatment more effectively. That is the starting point of where that comes into play. And then hopefully we'll expand the value proposition and the use case and action item that Sophia is talking about in the coming years and decades.
I also
Yeah.
wonder if there's an opportunity to learn from the first generation of digital therapeutics companies and software medical devices, and how do they get adopted, what that process was, and the risks there, to learn in the second wave of AI diagnostics and more precision medicine.
That's a really good point because we admire that those entrepreneurs who really in the first wave of digital therapeutics always said they had the burden of both life science companies and they had the burden of digital health companies. What I meant by that is they had to do all the work that the companies that Andrew and Morgan invest in, these preclinical scientific studies, regulatory approval. And then they had to do all the work that the companies that Sophia, myself, and Morgan invest in, and Andrew too, on the digital health side, where it's okay, you got to do all that. And then you got to go and hire sales folks and get physicians to adopt it and get consumers to believe in it and get paid and do it at a good gross margin. But we really admire those first generation digital therapeutic entrepreneurs because they really did pave the way. And I think it's a really good call out, Sophia, to future folks who are looking at the space to actually go and talk to those folks and learn from them. Corey from Pear and Eddie from Achille are two great folks. They've done a lot of the hard work, and hopefully it paves the way for the future generation because this is a big trend that Morgan's predicting.
Yeah, I think one other thing I completely agree to learn from the folks who've been there, done that. I think also learn from the folks who are doing it in life sciences, right? If you think about Tempest and
Yeah.
all the work they've done in oncology and now moving beyond, there is someone who cares about this, which is a biopharma company. And I think as we realize this like future vision of what we defined in 2006 was this learning health system where each patient teaches us something about our collective knowledge in medicine. Like we have the technology to build that world today. We just don't have the business models to build it. And life sciences have the business models to build it. How do we get the payer and provider world to appreciate that? And I think in the meantime, if I were to make the sub prediction for this year, I think in the meantime, we will see more multimodal AI companies coming to market, more technology spinning out of labs that are interesting, but they're going to be more operational. And so I think that'll look more like the ambient monitoring that we talked about with computer vision for older adults or for patients that are admitted. It might look more like supply chain optimization and monitoring, or maybe even we'll see more in the robotic surgery space that is inherently multimodal.